Well, welcome on, Gear.
Thank you,
Good to have
David.
you here.
Good to be here.
What's wrong with modern masculinity?
Wow, just starting deep. Modern masculinity. Are you asking what's wrong with our conception of masculinity, or what's wrong with males, or both?
Both. It seems like there's been, or at least you would believe that there's something we've lost along the way in masculinity. Like young men
Probably.
aren't really masculine anymore.
I mean, I don't know a lot of young men, but I've heard. I mean, the ones I'm around, like you seem like you've embraced masculinity.
Somewhat masculine. I
Yeah.
also have a nose piercing and earrings, and
Oh,
dress well, so
yeah.
kind of takes away
I don't
from.
think those things are
No, I know, but
anti-masculine.
they're like not conventional masculinity,
Oh,
right? So there's been like some positives towards people being more able to be themselves as opposed to constricting
yeah.
towards just like this one conventionally masculine thing where it's like I'm hard,
Yeah.
I'm like rustic, I like wood,
Right.
I have
Like what?
guns, and that's it. That's the whole thing, and knives.
Sports, maybe.
I mean,
Yeah,
maybe that's more modern.
that is
I feel like
probably
your classically masculine man wouldn't be super into sports. Like,
no.
why are you like watching
Well,
other
what about
things?
playing sports?
Oh
Or
yeah, that would be.
I guess what century do you think is the are we looking at?
Hmm. Well, which one do you think had the ideal of masculinity?
Hmm. I mean, in many ways, the conception of man, males and females, probably was best when Christianity was most embraced. So the medieval period, even though there's a lot of crazy shit that went on in the medieval period, the mentality probably understood what males and females are, or what they should be, or what they should strive to be. But yeah, certainly there were, like I said, crazy shit that happened. And I like your point, like of discovering who you really are, not being afraid to explore and embrace yourself. And so if we had a period where people felt pressured to be conventional excessively, I think that is a problem. So yeah, I guess I don't want to be too hard on modern males or modern mentality of masculinity, but I think that, I mean, we were talking before the podcast about telos, which you hadn't heard of. So telos, this is a Greek word meaning the end or the goal. So yeah, how do we know what a thing is? Well, one of the things is, at least in Aristotelian terms, is what is the final cause? What is the purpose for which something was made? And that's how we can often discover what it is, what it should be. And so, what is the purpose of the chair? What is the end the chair Smith had in mind? Was it's fulfilling its purpose, I think, pretty well right now. It's giving us the ability to sit and relax. So, what is the goal, or the telos of a male or a female? And often we can know. Obviously, males and females share many things, but we also have differences. So we can know what we are by looking at females and by looking at what we share with them, and then how we differ. And I think one of the things that's maybe too cliche, a little too cliche, but we're physically stronger typically, right? Obviously, there are exceptions. That there's plenty of women who can lift more than a lot of men, but in general, if a man works out, trains at the same activity a female does, he's gonna be better than the average female. That the average males are gonna be better than average females. We'll say
Yeah,
that.
they'll be stronger.
Yeah.
Have more bone density, be faster,
Exactly.
etc.
Exactly. Obviously, there are elite women who are better than 90% of elite men, but there's no elite women that are better than elite men.
Mm-hmm.
And so average women in that sport are typically not as good as average men. So what does that mean? Does it, or is there a reason that we were made to be stronger than women? I guess that's my question for, a simple question.
Yeah, so if we get to the ultimate end of it, what is the purpose of a man? What does it tell?
Yeah, I guess in many ways is to embrace that strength and to use it for the good, to help others, to help, you know, the women in his life. If hopefully there's some women in his life. He has a mom. If he gets married, he has a wife. If he gets married to a woman, he has a wife. If he has daughters, and then ultimately to teach his boys, if he has boys, to then become men and repeat. So, you know, protection, building things. Again, these are all cliche things. And I think most boys, if you give them all the options, they're going to enjoy things like building things, fighting, things that require strength and courage. And so, should we nurture that or should we discourage it? I guess that's the question.
Well, do you think we are discouraging men to be courageous and strong?
I think somewhat. I think you also have to recognize that we have a telos, we have a goal, but we also have forces acting against us. And so one of those forces is comfort and laziness. So is it easy to fall into, like, you know, laziness and eating shitty food and just following your whims? Absolutely. But does that make us happy? I guess that's the question. I mean, whenever I try to live like that, I'm less happy than when I live with excellence and discipline myself.
Mm-hmm.
And again, you hear guys like Joe Rogan preach this all day, so maybe it's becoming too cliche. Like, just be disciplined, be a man. Like,
yeah.
But I don't think you don't hear a lot of guys saying, I tried that. I was so disciplined in my 20s and I was unhappy. And so now in my 30s, I'm just morbidly obese and I just follow my emotions and do whatever the fuck I want. And I'm so much more happy. I don't see a bunch of dudes saying that. So I think he's onto something.
Mm-hmm. But wouldn't you, like, we have these things like food that's easily available, fast food, all these things that push for comfort and make life easier for us.
Right.
But we wouldn't want that for men or women, right? Like, a woman should also not be lazy and be
correct
eating unhealthy food and doing all of these things. So, like,
right.
How is this an attack on masculinity?
I mean, yeah, it's attack on humanity in the end. So yeah, but I think for a man to give into that is perhaps more unnatural or more offensive, if you will, for a man to just be, you know, soft and just seeking comfort. I think there is parts, you know, a woman, we could explore her. What gifts was she given? It seems like women have been given the gift of, like, empathy and sensitivity, you know, the nurturing aspect. Why? Probably because they're going to, you know, bring up children. They're going to be the main, and by main, I don't mean like she has to do 99% of the work, but like she's got boobs and she's going to breastfeed, right? She's going to carry the child for 9 months, deliver the child, and then breastfeed the child for months. Men cannot do any of those things. Maybe that's controversial now, but it's probably not to you. So she's been giving these abilities that are innate to her. So being more emotional or more aware of, like, a child's emotional needs, I think is a good thing. My ideal is, if I raised a bunch of boys by myself, I would be training them to be like 300 soldiers from, like, day one. And I think that would really fuck up a child.
Yeah. Like you're trying to fight with a sword at 2 years old.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah. And
training
guns
with
and
your
whatever.
dad.
Yeah. So
wreck a child.
So, like, if I ever get married and have children, hopefully their mom will not let me do that from an early age, or maybe, like, limit that time that I spend in warrior training.
Mm-hmm.
And she'll teach him how to be, you know, empathetic and maybe enjoy life's delicacies. And I think that's a gift that women have that men often don't. And again, I'm speaking in crazy stereotypes, I know, but I think if we just look at what the differences are, and maybe I'm taking them to the extreme, but like that seems there's some element of us that has that purpose. Now, again, if there's a male who's more sensitive and into the finer arts, and he marries a woman that's more like athletic and into fitness, is that a problem? No, I don't think that's a problem. Like a woman can teach her children how to do athletics and sports and be tough, and a dad can teach his children how to like be musical and artistic and emotional and empathetic. I'm not saying like, oh, it's disordered. There are exceptions, of course, but in general, that it seems like that's how things are.
Mm-hmm. So what are we losing then, or what have we lost? I think most guys I know tend to be on the more assertive side, more masculine, maybe like lifting weights, etc., stuff like that. So are we losing masculinity?
Not necessarily. Like again, as long as we're giving boys and girls the freedom to explore the things they want to do and not shame them for the things they want to do, assuming the things they want to do are like not they're generally socially acceptable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we shouldn't encourage like being a bully and doing crazy physical harm to the other. So yeah, as long as we're like giving boys the opportunity, but I don't know that we often are. And I don't know if, like, for me, I didn't have a strong male role model, and maybe I don't have it. Maybe I shouldn't like be upset because I eventually did. I eventually had football coaches and wrestling coaches in high school.
Mm-hmm.
But before that, I didn't have a lot of like great male role models. And so I didn't really know how to explore how to be like a virtuous man. But again, I think I turned out all right. So maybe there isn't a problem. Maybe we have maybe things are the way they should be. And like you said, there's plenty of guys who are into the things that are stereotypically masculine, and vice versa. And I think more and more you see guys who are unashamedly like exploring that. The question is, are women into those guys?
Like you don't think women are into guys who are maybe more emotional, more artistic?
No, the opposite. In fact, like, I think often we've maybe trained our girls to kind of want to take charge, which is again a female who's like a badass, kicks ass, like can lead. Nothing wrong with that, but if she's taught to fear a guy who's a leader, or who I don't know has strong views and has a strong, I guess, sense of masculinity, that might be a problem.
Yeah.
But I mean, in the end, we just know the people we know, right? Otherwise, we're like watching fucking TV and we see things online and we hear all these problems. You hear Jordan Peterson talk about all this shit, and
yeah, like all these men that don't know how to be men.
Yeah, and part of me believes it, but maybe not. Maybe
I haven't met one yet.
He's full of shit. Jordan Peterson's just saying shit to make money.
The thing is that they probably exist, but they probably don't interact with the world very much, right?
Yeah.
Like your classically man who doesn't know how to be a man might be inside, like playing video games, watching pornography.
Yeah.
Maybe like grinding on some goal that they want to do, but they're like not really interacting with the world, not being social.
Yeah.
So like it's probably very hard to actually observe these types of guys who exist.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I can say I've had a number of roommates who like don't seem to want to do the things that I like to do. Maybe they want to, they just don't do it.
Yeah.
Like I've had a garage gym for like 15 years, and I've probably had maybe 15 different roommates in the past 15 years, and none of them have really like gotten excited about working out. But it could be I'm intimidating, or they don't feel like it's their domain, but they're not lifting like at another gym. So, and again, lifting weights isn't like the
end all
the
be all.
epitome of being a man, but you'd think there'd be at least one or two, especially when instead they're often playing video games or watching TV or. So I think if we compare, like, not to be too judgmental, but if you compare activities like video games versus working out, and I'm not saying video games are bad, but if you spend 2 hours a day working out versus 2 hours a day playing video games, and that's all you had free time for, and of course you could spend 2 hours, I don't know, meditating, 2 hours being with a girl. Like, obviously you have time to do, if you have 2 hours of free time, I'm going to compare video games versus working out. I would love to have a debate on which is better, because I'm 100% certain.
Well, yeah, I don't know if anyone would make the argument that playing video games is better than working out for 2 hours.
Okay, there we go. So
I think that's maybe not controversial, but maybe I'm biased because I work out and I don't play video games. Yeah. So
I'm not saying like if you worked out like 5 days a week and then 2 days you played video games, I think that's fine. But if like every day you had that choice and you only played video games, I think again you're kind of falling into that, like, I'm gonna do what's easy.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take a lot of discipline to sit and play video games.
Yeah. I mean, at least my opinion is that the greater attack on men isn't really just like we're losing masculinity. I think most men want to go, I don't know, they want to work at something and help people and do all of these things that are masculine. They want to provide.
Okay.
But the pornography and video games are kind of what attracts
that would distract
men.
them.
And video games, one, gives you this sense of progression, this sense of growth,
right?
Which is something that as a man you might be trying to get, right? When you're going out into the world.
Yeah.
And then pornography gets you this sense of, oh, I'm getting, I'm having sex. I'm like doing well,
right?
On a mating market. I'm doing well, right? Like it simulates it, but you're not talking to any girls. You're not actually being out in the world and doing that,
right?
So I think it actually comes down to kind of these two things that attract men, and nobody's really figured out if you're stuck there, how do you even really move past that? Like, you're addicted to pornography or video games.
Yeah. So you're asking me how to get out of that?
I don't know. Maybe you know. Maybe none of us know, and it's just a dilemma that we're stuck in.
I mean, I think they're kind of time-tested things. Like, you just gotta like do it in a way, like, or you have an accountability partner. Like, obviously everyone has some free time, and so if you're like debating whether I should work out right now or should I sit at my computer and check my email, and you know what's going to happen next.
But it's so easy to do that.
It's so easy. So I'd say accountability partners. Like, I mean, if you don't know a man in your life or a woman or somebody in your life who's willing to like tell you some hard truths, then call me or call David. and basically what I would say is, like, every time you look at porn, you have to like do something like 10 push-ups, like something small. It doesn't have to be crazy. And eventually, like, you're going to build up, like, at a certain point, you're probably say, well, rather than looking at porn, I'm just going to do the push-ups. Or rather than looking at porn, I'm going to go actually do a workout. So I think the hardest thing is getting started for a lot of people. Like, how do I start? I don't know how to do anything. I don't know. I can't do a push-up. Or I'm too fat. I can't do a sit-up. Well, there's plenty of other things you do. So maybe that's part of it. I don't know. Maybe we should talk to someone who's like overcome it. Because I never had a strong addiction to pornography. I've played a lot of video games in my youth, but ultimately sports were a lot more attractive. Once I, started real sports, and I didn't really have time for video games, I chose sports over video games. And I think that's kind of the natural progression with a lot of males is I'm either going to like spend time with my kids and my wife or my girlfriend or play video games. Well, my wife and kids are much more attractive than video games. So that's the natural progression for a single man. Yeah, that's where you don't have those things calling you. you have to use other things, like, again, an accountability partner or, a roommate. Like, hopefully one of your roommates is like halfway like open to like becoming a better person, and you just have a deal like, hey, my door's shut and it's during the day, I'm probably watching porn, so knock on my door.
I never had that problem when I had roommates.
No?
I mean, I shared a room during college,
there you go.
so there was no way to to do that.
Where did everyone watch the porn?
I don't know, dude.
Yeah, just on like in their phone.
I think my roommate was hiding in the corner.
Yeah.
What was that like when you didn't have a male role model before you got into sports? And how did you navigate the world?
I mean, I still played sports, but I didn't have, and I had probably had some great coaches growing up, but I just didn't get to know them in a way that I did in high school. I don't know. I guess I was just a normal boy, but I didn't aspire to anything great until I met some of these men in high school, and then I'm like, oh, I want to be as strong as Coach Nance, or as like as crazy of a tackler, or like just a killer mentality as Coach Robin. These are football coaches. So, and then they seemed like, good men off the football field. Like, oh, this guy's a good dad. Like, okay, maybe there's something to that. So, I mean, I think every kid's a little lost, and so, I mean, I didn't know what I didn't know. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, I guess I'm more curious on what the effect was in the real world that they actually had on you and how you went through the world.
Like once I met them, or
yeah,
like
what does gear look like having never met these people? What does gear look like?
Oh wow! If I never met any of the people I looked up to,
yeah,
maybe I would have been one of those incel video gamers who. But I probably would have killed myself. No, I mean no offense to anyone who's a gamer or an incel, but I just know like. And maybe I don't know. It's a good question. Like if I would have just been raised by like women who never played athletics, did sports, like would my body have not craved it as much?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, when I look at guys who just like can like go week in and week out without like doing anything physical, I'm just amazed, because if I go more than a day or two without doing something physical, I get restless, and I just want to like do something.
Yeah.
Do something that like. So, is it just a matter of like that's my genetics, or did I train myself to need that?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Do you have an opinion?
I think you might have had this innate desire to do that anyways. Yeah. But I'm more curious as to like you're growing up.
Yeah,
like sorry, 18 years old.
That is kind of a tangent. So if I never met these men,
like did you have like moments where you were like, oh, I want to do this, but I look up to this guy, so I'm going to do this other thing instead?
I remember my 8th grade year, I got kicked out of 8th grade and went to a different school, and so I didn't have a sport. I think I probably ran like track normally in the spring. So I played football in the fall, played basketball for my first school, and then got kicked out in like second semester, started a new school. And I was just a new kid, and I probably was too late to register for track or something. So I didn't play anything second semester of 8th grade year. And I just remember being so like, just so restless. And I didn't really know how to work out. Like I knew how to do push-ups and sit-ups, but it wasn't much. And I didn't really like have that discipline. I just remember sitting around watching TV, and life just seemed terrible. Mm-hmm. And of course I was in a new place. So yeah, I probably was kind of depressed. So I would think I would just be depressed. And that's why I say I would kill myself. Like, you can only take so much depression where you're just like, life sucks. I want this to end. So I don't think I mean, it's kind of like dramatic, but I don't know if I'd be alive. if I didn't find like an outlet to deal with like this angst. And of course, it's not just like I work out and so now I have purpose. Like, no, I can get depressed if I don't have purpose besides working out. Like I've had times when I just work out 4 hours a day and I don't have like a bigger purpose in my life, and I get kind of depressed. I mean, I feel good. I get that endorphin fix for that time, but then outside of that, I'm like, what's the point of life? So I think I need both, like a purpose. Like I need that physical exertion and like a bigger picture purpose. And so without meeting these people, I don't know that I would have been inspired to look towards something bigger.
What did that actually look like? Like, what did they provide you actually? That was what made you find this larger P purpose. And how did you even find that larger P purpose? Like, you knew these guys and you think they're cool, think they're awesome, but what was that internal experience actually like?
I mean, ultimately, it wasn't just them. It was meeting like Jesus, having an encounter with God that gave me ultimate purpose. Because you can only have so much worldly success, and life is still meaningless without like an ultimate. Because we're all going to die unless someone figures out, how to live forever. But we haven't yet, so we're all going to die. What's going to happen after? Who the fuck knows? But Jesus claimed to, and Christians claim to. So it makes life it makes this world worth living. Like I want to be the best version of myself in this life so that I can be an even better version of myself in the next. So they ultimately, and of course, not all of them directly, but indirectly showed me that there's something that gives meaning to everything. Mm-hmm. And so that's it. I mean, Jesus.
What do you think your purpose is?
Yeah,
at least on this earth.
It's crazy that I probably haven't fully figured it out. I mean, probably no one has until they die, but like, I'm unmarried. I'd love to get married and have kids, and I think that serves a purpose for a lot of people. And rightly so. It's an incredible endeavor to marry somebody, to say I'll be with you forever no matter what, and then make new people with them. And make them hopefully good people. So I'm hoping that's part of my purpose. Even that's probably limited. Like if that's your only purpose is to reproduce. I mean, that's a noble purpose. But I think most people have even not bigger, but other purposes than that. I don't know. I mean, you look at like, and not to get too like biblical or, Christian, but I think the Bible, the Old Testament especially, shows a lot of people, a lot of like prophets who are like trying to figure out what the hell did God put me here for. And I like Samson maybe because, I don't know, he's a strong dude and he got the girl, but he literally didn't know his purpose until like his last minutes. Like his strength was given to him to like topple the pagan temple. Mm-hmm. And he was searching his whole life for that purpose. So with some people, they have the luxury of knowing their whole life, like this is why I was put on this earth and I'm going to do it. Others have to wait till like the last minute. And I hope eventually everyone figures that out. Mm-hmm. That maybe that's a tragedy, is when people have lived their whole life and never discover it and die without that discovery. So I can't say I know for sure. I mean, maybe people from the outside can be like, well, Gear, you've been given these traits. You were put here in Broomfield, or you came to Broomfield for this reason. Maybe they can see things better than I, and they can tell me. But I mean, for a time I was a teacher, and I really enjoyed that. Hopefully I had an effect on people, a positive effect. And I might go back to teaching someday, but let's say I don't. Hopefully I change some lives there. So yeah, I think I see glimpses of purpose, but nothing like no big picture yet.
Yeah. And you're kind of in this place now where you don't really have any obligations in your life, which like maybe a lot of people strive to, right? Like a lot of people save for retirement. They're like, I can't wait till the day where I can do nothing
Right.
and just hang out, and
Yeah,
then I'll
yeah.
figure out my purpose, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But you're already in that position where you can sit around and contemplate what your purpose is and think about all these things. So is it useful to even strive to get to that position?
Of having enough money so you can sit around?
Yeah. And is it even helpful for finding a purpose?
Maybe. I don't sit around much. That's what I get criticized a lot by some people, is that I don't like to sit around. I mean, I do think a lot while I'm doing things. But to answer your question, I mean, money certainly can't buy happiness, but it sure can help, in some ways. Like, for people who are like just grinding and can't get ahead, like having money to be ahead would be huge.
Mm-hmm.
But then for others, having too much money is a curse, especially if they're not self-motivated or disciplined. Like, then they do probably sleep in every day. They don't do a lot. It is kind of a curse. So I guess I'm grateful that I did have a period in my life where I had to grind financially, and now I can reap the benefits. I'm certainly no multimillionaire. I just have enough to get by.
Yeah. Without working.
I mean, I have a business that I don't have to give 40 hours a week to, more like 10 or 15.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I wanted to be. I don't necessarily want a shit ton of money. I'd like to buy some more things. Like I'd love to buy some land and farm. Do not like full scale farming, but like raise some cattle and chickens, if that's
and then eat the chickens.
Yeah. I mean, my brother tried that with cows, and he's much more committed than I am to that, and he kind of gave up. So it's probably a lot harder than I think, but might as well try. So I have goals like that, like, and land out here is not cheap.
Mm-hmm. But your main goal right now is to get married, right?
I think so.
And why do you think you haven't made it there yet? I was talking with a mutual friend who was like, bro, if Gear isn't married, like there's no chance for any of us. Because theoretically, you're like in this position, you have a lot of time to yourself. You can spend a lot of time on dating.
Yeah.
You don't really have to grind for any cash. You're already fine there. And like you're jacked. Like you're a decently attractive guy. All of these different things that people would be like, oh, I just have to get there, and then I can get married and I'll settle down, right? Like you have all of those things that maybe a lot of young men would say they have to get before they can settle down and get married.
Mm-hmm.
So like, what do you think's going on?
Yeah, I used to think that too.
Like you used to think you had to
acquire a certain amount of wealth, be in a certain amount of shape, have a certain amount of social aptitude, which I think to some degree is true. But I think probably the biggest quality is, a willingness to love someone no matter what, and have the time, or not the time, have the willingness to give the time. And so I think probably one of my problems is because I wanted to better myself, I wasn't as focused on giving time to another, especially a girlfriend. And so you can get selfish. You can get because I obviously have a lot of free time, but I also want to do certain things every day. Like I want to get enough sleep. I want to eat the right food. I want to work out. And if any of those things start to lack, I get anxious, and it's a problem.
So are you addicted to bettering yourself?
Maybe.
And there's no space for anyone else.
I wouldn't say that. There's probably not a willingness to give up everything, which I think you kind of need. It's not that you have to give up. Like, obviously, married people sleep and eat, and some work out.
They stop after that. Yeah. They don't need that
anymore. But it's like you come at least second. Once a child gets there, it's third or fourth or fifth. And I guess I'd like to think I'm willing to do that, but my last relationship, I felt like I was there. Maybe she didn't. Maybe that's why it didn't work out. But I thought that I was there. And if I have the same attitude that I had with her, I have that with like the next girl, and that fails, and then I try again and that fails, then at a certain point I have to say, like, I'm the problem.
Something's wrong with you.
Yeah, I am unwilling to give what it takes. But I think not everyone requires the same amount of, like, your time, right? There are plenty of women who also want to get plenty of sleep, want to eat the right food, and want to work out every day. And so, like, time alone might only be like a good hour a day. Whereas other women, it might be like, no, we need like a quality, like 2 to 3 hours a day. I mean, some women, it's like 1 hour a week, maybe, or 2 hours a week.
Yeah.
So maybe the last relationship, we were a little misaligned there. I don't know. This is where it's like, I'm kind of in new territory where I have the time, the money, and at least I think I have the willingness to try. And I guess we'll see. We'll see how the next one goes.
Now you have no excuses, right? It's not, I don't have enough money. I don't have enough time.
I mean, if some girl is looking for a gold digger with like 10 million, then I'm not the man for her.
But that's not the person you want. Anyways, like you have enough money to get by.
Yeah, to take her out a few times a week.
Because it's very easy to cope with those things where you're like, oh, I can't
for sure
date because I don't have the money.
Yeah.
It's like, there's plenty of guys who date and don't work at McDonald's, right?
Absolutely.
Like, absolutely. That's not a limiting factor. Or don't have the time. They work 12 hours a day and they still date.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Like, it's very easy to hide behind these things.
Yep. And I probably did in the past.
Yeah. Do you think you wish you dated more in the past and kind of didn't grind as hard as you did?
Not necessarily. The only reason I would say yes is if I have gotten to a place where I'm unable to, like, pivot. Like, if I am really that possessive of my time, and I'm completely unable to change, which I don't think any human is unable to change if they're willing. So only if that was the case would I have regretted. I mean, some say I want to have kids in the prime of my life. Well, maybe the prime is still here. Maybe if you keep working out, your prime is through your 60s and 70s. So that's my hope, at least. Yeah.
But do you think you would have had an easier time, maybe, if you had, like, found someone when you were younger and kind of got here together with them?
Yeah, I mean, that's what they say, is if you marry young, you're so ignorant, and you just grow together.
You'll figure it out.
But I guess my fear, well, I mean, I shouldn't have a fear because it didn't happen, but, like,
back then it would
like,
have
let's
been
say I did get married at 19 and my 19-year-old married self becomes my age, and we meet. And, like, if I like that man better than I like myself, I'd be like, yeah, hell yeah. But if I'm like, bro, like, you're broke and you're divorced and you're pathetic, then of course I'm glad I didn't do that. So I guess it's hard to say. Yeah. Like, I could see how certainly marriage is good for you and could have made me a better man. Absolutely. But it could also, like, if you don't marry well, then it can really fuck you up. It can destroy your life. So, and I didn't really have anyone in my life to, like, make sure that I was going after the right girls. So I guess my fear would be I would have married someone that was bad for me.
Married the wrong person.
Yeah.
Do you still think you'll marry the wrong person?
I don't think so. I mean, if a girl is willing to like date me and she sees what I'm all about, she's probably gonna be pretty aligned with me. Or she's gonna pretend for a while and then eventually be aligned with me. Like I don't know. I don't see myself like meeting a girl who's like a stronger personality than me and has a much different lifestyle and like having me conform to hers. But you never know. So
but are you kind of asking the same from the woman's side?
What do you mean?
Or you said you won't date someone who's kind of wanting you to conform to their way of doing things.
Yeah, I think ideally I find a woman who we're pretty much aligned.
Okay. And so they don't have to conform.
No.
But so you think that's possible to find one person where you don't have to give anything away?
No, you have to certainly give. Okay. No, you have to give your time, your emotional energy, and they're going to be like changes in me for sure. But if she's like, you can't work out, I would laugh.
Yeah. I mean, that would be pretty extreme.
Yeah. Or, you can't, I guess we have to like 10x our net worth and like buy a huge fucking mansion and eat like the premier foods and like have like a housekeeper. And I would laugh. Like, no, we're like, I'm not going to 10x I could hit it big, sure, on one of my investments, but like, let's not plan on that. Or if she's like, you have to give everything away, we're going to live in poverty, I would laugh. Like, no, you can live as simply as you want, but I'm going to keep my gym. I'm going to have a decent, vehicle. And like, I want to have money for like trips. We don't have to live like luxuriously, but so like, I can think of many things where a girl could say something and it's just obvious we're not aligned.
Yeah.
Or no, you got to start doing marijuana with me and like getting drunk every night or or we got to eat shitty food. We're going to eat at In-N-Out every night.
Become a stoner. That'd be pretty fun for the girl.
Yeah. I don't think a girl's going to convince me of that.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's more of the values behind what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. And like the faith question, I think is huge. Like, I mean, I think I'm open to dating non-Catholics, but again, there's the alignment would be tough. Like if she's an open person, like I'm gonna share with her what I think is true, and she can share with me what she thinks is true, and we'll see where it goes.
Or I found this out about Aquinas the other day. He had 4 things that he kind of called the apparent goods that people would kind of fall to, and there was 4 of them.
Yeah.
Which one of them was? It was power, wealth, honor, or prestige, status, and then the last one was
another P word, I think.
Pleasure, wealth.
Oh, you already said pleasure.
Pleasure, power, wealth, and prestige.
Yeah, exactly.
And those were the 4.
Yeah.
And so, if you had to eliminate these one by one, which one's the first one that you kind of get rid of? So we can kind of find which one you're attached to the most.
Which one I have gotten rid of?
No, which one would you get rid of? You have these 4 things. Which one do you care the least about?
I guess it depends on what you mean by pleasure. So wait,
things that feel good.
Power, wealth, pleasure. What was the 4th?
And power, wealth, pleasure.
Prestige,
status.
Okay. Status. Which is different than power. So it's okay. I would say... Yeah, if by pleasure you mean like, oh, I just need a soda, like it just tastes so good, like that's not attractive. But if it's like, I need the pleasure of working out or the pleasure of seeing beautiful things, but I think there's some pleasures that are good. So I think I know Aquinas pretty well. I think he's talking about disordered pleasures, like the attachment to like sinful pleasures. So
which one do you get rid of?
I'd say sinful pleasures.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you have power, prestige, and wealth.
Yeah.
Which one do you get rid of next?
Probably
I don't really care for pleasure as much.
Probably prestige next. Like,
okay.
Don't give a fuck.
You don't care to be liked by other people?
No, of course I want to be liked, but I'd like to also...
But you would rather have
like
wealth
to not
or
give
power
any
over
fucks.
it.
Yeah, I'd rather... I want to be liked by the right people. I want to be liked by people who are respectable. want to be liked by good people. So yeah, I think just like a massive, like a celebrity where everyone knows your name, like that's actually a huge burden that I don't think any celebrity actually wants once they have it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that'd be easy to get rid of.
You have wealth and power left.
Wealth and power. Those are tough because what is wealth? Like if is that like being a billionaire or just having like everything you like
put
all
them
the
all to
resources?
Put them both to the extremes. You're a billionaire or you're like the dictator of the US.
Oh, I don't want to be a billionaire. Like if I could buy any house I wanted, that'd be nice. You don't need to be a billionaire to have like the nicest house in Broomfield. So if I could just have the nicest house, the coolest house I wanted, and that's not being wealthy, then I'm cool with getting rid of wealth.
And you'd be left with power. So that's the thing you care about the most.
I mean, I guess I don't want to be controlled. And so it's the powerful people that can control us. So if I can like combat that by being just as powerful as them, that'd be cool.
But you'd have control over others, right?
Yeah, but
who are like you, who don't want to be controlled.
Yeah, so I hopefully would retain that.
Yeah.
So like if I was ever like a senator, I don't want to be president, but if I like was a senator, hopefully I would retain that awareness that no, people, especially Americans, want freedom. Like let's get rid of stupid taxes and allow people to do what they want with their money and not require shit like you know mandatory vaxes or whatever else the government thinks they need to control us with. Then sure. Although I think I will contradict myself to some degree because I do think certain environmental things are good.
How do you think power plays into the struggles that you have in your life? Or a desire for it?
I mean, I don't have any major struggles, but I could see myself, especially when I have kids, like wanting to, wanting to educate them in the way that I think is best. Yeah, things of that nature where I feel like the government is trying to control the way I raise my children. But yeah, right now I have a fair amount of autonomy. I think taxes are ridiculous, but I'm doing all right.
Since that was the last one left, you'd have more of a propensity to desire power in your regular life.
I think so, just to combat like people whom I think are overreaching more readily. Because yeah, I think even though I'm staunchly independent and libertarian, I'm still impacted by like when I see someone who seems to have power, whether it's a celebrity or a politician, say something. I kind of want to like agree with them because I assume which is a false. It's illogical to assume they know what they're talking about, but it still has influence on me, and so I have to like, really step back and think, okay, is what they said really something true, and do I really want to agree with that? So I guess influencing people to think about higher things or better things or think. Yeah, I guess be better people, be better citizens, be better friends, better husbands, wives. So if I could use power to help be a force of good, then yeah. Sign me up.
So why do you become a teacher, not something with more influence, more power?
Why did I, or why
did you?
I think that was probably it. Like,
you think so?
I realized how much of an impact you can have. And how much of an impact I received from my teachers. Yeah, because if you read something, some celebrity or politician says something, you read it like, oh, okay. Or you read a nice quote in the newspaper, it sticks with you for like, a day at most. But like a teacher, if you think back to the people who influence you the most, it's your parents and your teachers.
Yeah.
And your friends. So like if I could be that for some people, then I think my life was was worthwhile.
Yeah.
And hopefully I've done that.
Yeah, what was the impact you had on your students and that they had on you?
I mean, you'd have to ask them.
Has nobody ever told you?
I think they've told me. I mean, not all of them, obviously, but some say, Gear, I think about your class, like not every day, but I think about it a lot. It influences the way I go to work, or why I'm still Catholic, or how I approach this or that. So that's flattering when I hear that. And the fact that, former students keep in touch with me, like they want to still be involved in my life, and they want me to be involved in theirs. I've been to a number of weddings, so it shows that they want me in their life. I think people don't want people in their life that they think are negative or a bad influence. So,
and what impact has teaching had on you?
It definitely has given me perspective. Like, no two humans are fully alike, and I taught a diversity of students, and it definitely refined my views. Probably made me less idealistic in the negative sense, or ideological. Realizing that there are a lot of these movements in the world that seem toxic, but there are people in them who mean well and probably are good-hearted. So it's given me less, like, I guess I'm less judgmental, because they've shown me that, your perspective my perspective is limited. I still think that I have a lot to share, and the Catholic Church has a lot to give, but oftentimes the way the truth is presented is not done with love, and not done with enough nuance, and not done with enough awareness of the audience to whom they're speaking.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely widened my perspective.
And looking back on your life up till now, you were a teacher, real estate investor,
Mm-hmm.
and you grinded for a long period of your life. Is there anything you would go back and tell your younger self to learn before that took you too long to learn?
Mobility.
What do you mean?
Flexibility. I probably work out too much, but I definitely didn't stretch enough in my teens and 20s.
Flexibility as in like actual flexibility.
Yes, like I do Pilates now multiple times a day to make up for many days of not stretching and just grinding and not paying attention to, like, the need for rest. So if I could have, like, started Pilates in my 20s, I'd probably be even in better shape.
True. You'd be able to move a lot better.
Exactly. And while I said I didn't regret not dating as much, I think practicing empathy is something I didn't do